The morning light slides across the kitchen table, catching the edges of envelopes like little boats floating toward an uncertain shore. You sit there, coffee cooling in your hands, a stack of bills, a calendar with more crossed-out days than promises kept, and a quiet question settles over you: who do you believe you are when you think about money? That question is not abstract, it is the hinge on which every decision turns. The way you answer it determines whether you pay the bill with resignation or with a quiet, steady plan that feels like possibility. Across from you, in the soft voice that has always lived at the edge of your thoughts, the inner mentor appears, not as a stranger, but as someone you recognize. You have been rehearsing a role, it says, and the script has kept you small. You remember a childhood kitchen, a parent muttering about scarcity, a teacher's warning that security comes from hard, endless grinding. Those lines stitched themselves into your identity, thread by invisible thread. Suddenly the envelopes are more than paper, they are pages in a story you have been living without choosing the author. This is not a blame scene. It is an invitation. Imagine stepping outside the house and finding a pathway you never noticed, light filtering through trees, each step a choice to test a different belief. You are neither the sum of your past mistakes nor the echo of someone else's fear. You are the one who can change the inner script. The mentor leans forward in that imagined doorway and asks with patient clarity, what if your financial life is not proof of limitation, but a mirror reflecting who you think you are? The question lands like a key in a lock. Small actions begin to rearrange the furniture of your mind, a daily practice of noticing language around money, a deliberate decision to keep one unexpected check as a reminder that opportunities arrive, a simple gratitude line in the morning for what already works. Each is a tiny act of rebellion against the old script. If this scene touches something real inside you, tap like below so this work can find others standing where you stand now. Are you ready to meet the stories that shape your finances and step through the threshold into a new identity? In the next part of our journey we cross that threshold together and face the first trial, the fear that says you are not enough. You step through a doorway you didn't know was there, an ordinary kitchen at dusk, but the light is different, warmer, like a memory filtered through possibility. At the island sits someone who looks like you 10 years from now, steadier posture, a quiet smile, hands folded around a mug that steam doesn't disturb. Who do you think you are with money? They ask without judgment, only curiosity. The question lands like a stone in calm water, ripples of old anxieties, bills, missed opportunities, the stories whispered by grandparents, spread and then slow. I am careful, you answer, defaulting to the script you've rehearsed for decades. The older you tilts their head. Careful is not the same as worthy, they say. Careful keeps you small. Worthy invites the world in. Their voice is the voice you recognize, equal parts compassion and challenge. The room breathes in that balance. Outside, a rain begins, steady, cleansing. Inside, the mentor slides a small notebook across the counter. Not a budget, they clarify, a ledger of alignment. Each day, record one decision that proves you are someone who can and should receive. The paper smells faintly of cedar and new beginnings. You try it, minor at first, choosing a healthier lunch that costs a little more, accepting a freelance gig you would have once dismissed, asking for a clear date on a delayed invoice. The mentor watches, not applauding but letting you feel the weight of your choices. The law of attraction is not magic you can wish into being, they remind you. It's a grammar for identity. Your feelings, your small actions, your language, they conjugate who you are. They teach you a short ritual, a 2-minute visualization, not of numbers, but of the person who makes decisions without shame, feeling the texture of a new jacket, the sound of your name spoken with respect, the relief of bills paid on time. It sounds simple, almost too small, and yet it rearranges how you breathe. Fear arrives, as expected, a familiar ache that questions every experiment. You and the mentor name it, sit with it like an honored but limited guest, and then practice one small habit that contradicts scarcity. If this is resonating, the mentor says, leaning forward, like this moment and stay with me. Do you want to continue unfolding who you can become? Their question opens a door to the next trial, a memory at the heart of your scarcity story that must be faced before lasting change can be claimed. The kitchen light slants through half-open blinds as you sit at the table, a stack of bills like small mountains, a cold mug beside your hand. Your pulse tightens when a soft voice, neither loud nor foreign, but unmistakably yours, asks, "Who told you you weren't enough?" You startle, because that voice carries the weight of years, childhood warnings, a parent's caution, a boss's offhand remark. It sits across from you now, older and steady, a mentor who knows the aching places and won't let you hide. You have been carrying their ledger, the voice says. But whose account are you balancing? We linger in that moment, sensory and slow, the hum of the refrigerator, the faint traffic outside, the metallic whisper of an unpaid statement. The mentor leans forward, not to shame but to clarify. Let's begin small, she suggests. For 7 mornings, imagine opening an envelope and finding enough. Describe it, color, texture, your breathing. Write 1 sentence about how it feels to be paid on time. That is the first practical instruction, a focused visualization married to a tiny act, scripting. She teaches you to count what you already have, 5 small things you can be grateful for about money, the electricity that warmed dinner, the card that paid for gas, the friend who lent an umbrella. Gratitude shifts the nervous system, it rewires what you notice. Then she challenges your habits. Act like the person you want to become in 1 humble gesture each day, she says. Pay yourself first, even if it's $2. Put a single dollar in a jar labeled growth. Close 1 tab on unnecessary spending. Read 1 page about investing. These are law of attraction practices tailored to reality, specific intentions, repeated visualization, daily gratitude, and practical actions that align with the inner identity you're choosing. Fear rises, old stories push back, claiming rationality. You answer aloud, fumbling at first, but what if I lose what I have? The mentor smiles, not dismissing the fear, but reframing it, risk is real. Faith is a choice you practice. Identity is the soil where possibility grows. In that exchange the first trial appears, consistency. You commit to the small rituals for a week. If this touches you, give this a like. What money story are you ready to rewrite? Stay with me, in the next part we'll step into the first real test, where intention meets resistance and a small victory begins to shift everything. The kitchen light is soft, the clock ticks like a heartbeat. You sit with a thin pile of envelopes, a coffee gone cold, and that familiar tightness behind the ribs, the one that arrives with every balance check, every unexpected expense. You hear a voice, not from outside but from somewhere steadier inside you. Who do you believe you are financially? It asks. It is neither accusatory nor gentle, it simply resonates like a bell that has been waiting to be rung. You answer aloud, almost surprised at the smallness of the words, I'm someone who scrambles, who doesn't keep up. The inner mentor leans in, a presence you recognize from earlier dreams and hard lessons. He tilts his head and says, names are stories. Listen, every expense you fear, every bargain you cling to, carries a sentence that defines you. If that sentence is small, behavior follows. If it expands, behavior will follow that too. He guides you to a simple experiment. Close your eyes. Picture a day where money is a tool, not a threat, the tactile sound of a card sliding, the weight of an envelope full of opportunity, the relief when a bill is paid without compromise. Feel the lift in your chest. Now name it in the present tense, I am someone who attracts and manages money with clarity. Say it 3 times, and anchor it with a touch, press thumb to forefinger and breathe deliberately. This anchor will be your emergency rope when doubt yanks you back. Then the mentor gets practical. Change the small rituals, he says. Open the account with curiosity, not judgment. Price your work as value, not apology. Schedule a weekly 5-minute review where you celebrate progress, even a single small win. You protest, what if I fail? He smiles with the patience of someone who has failed forward. Then you gather data. You recalibrate. Identity is not fragile, it is retrained. A memory surfaces, a parent's offhand remark about money that felt like a map. The mentor points to it, there's your old script. You can read it, but you don't have to live inside it. You try the new script once more, louder, firmer. The kitchen seems to breathe with you. If this moment lands with you, a small like helps others find it. Tell me, what money story are you still telling yourself? There is movement now, a readiness. You place the envelopes in a different stack, not to hide them but to plan. The next step will test this new identity in the marketplace where beliefs meet action, and the true work of transformation begins. The road out of old scarcity feels quieter than you expected, less thunder, more subtle shifts in the air. You stand in a small kitchen at dawn, the kettle hissing, bills stacked like quiet accusations on the counter. Inside, a different conversation begins, not the frantic drama of "I can't," but a steady, curious inquiry. The inner mentor appears again, not as a booming voice but as a calm presence at the table, leaning forward with a cup of tea and a pen. "Who are you being with this money?" they ask. You answer honestly for the first time, "I'm someone who holds back. I keep the door half closed." The mentor nods and sketches something on a napkin, a simple practice you can carry into the day. You try it. For 3 mornings you stand before the mirror and say, in a low, steady tone, "I am a steward of abundance." The words feel strange, your reflection wrinkles with skepticism. Yet after the 3rd morning, a small opportunity appears, a client extends terms, a neighbor asks for a favor that becomes paid work. The change is not magical fireworks but a bend in momentum. The mentor smiles, identity births action. Action births results. Notice what shifts when you move from fear to stewardship. We explore practical rituals that anchor identity, a daily 5-minute monovision where you feel money as a tool for contribution, a gratitude ledger that lists 3 financial wins, no matter how small, and a micro-investment habit, transfer a tiny predictable amount into savings the day you receive income. Each practice is offered as a sentence you can live by, not a rigid formula. Dialogue continues like a scene between 2 seasoned companions. "What if I fail?" you whisper. "Then you will learn the shape of growth," the mentor replies, steady and compassionate. This is where the law of attraction gets real, intention backed by aligned behavior. You begin to recognize old scarcity stories as worn garments you can take off. Small measurable results arrive, less anxiety, clearer choices, a bank balance that stops feeling like a judgment and starts feeling like a reflection. If this feels like your own kitchen, your own morning, would you give this moment a small sign of support? Does the question of "who am I financially" land for you? If so, stay with this journey and subscribe. There is a turning point ahead where fears must be faced, and the path to sustained prosperity takes its first true test. He returns to the kitchen table where the light slants through the blinds, dust motes drifting like small promises. Bills are stacked, an old envelope with a bank notice, a coffee cup cooling beside a notebook. His chest tightens, the familiar script of scarcity starting to play, and then the inner mentor's voice arrives, low and sure. "Who do you believe you are, when you look at these numbers?" she asks. He answers, quieter than he expects, "Someone careful. Someone not enough." The mentor leans in, not to scold but to interrogate the story itself. She guides him through a rehearsal that is both simple and seismic. Imagine the same table, the same bills, but now see yourself as the one who pays with calm, who chooses where money goes from a place of sovereignty, not panic. See the movement of money as a conversation, not a judgment, she says. "What would you say to money if you were speaking as someone already prosperous?" He tries it aloud, "Thank you for the ways you flow to me." The sentence feels strange, then like a key. They practice 3 concrete moves, elements of the law of attraction that meet the real world. First, a 5-minute morning visualization with precise detail, the check that clears, the meter reading paid, his name on the deposit, the relief in his shoulders. Second, the ritual of gratitude for every small financial win, cash found in a coat, a discount, a bill negotiated, each logged in the notebook like a breadcrumb leading out of the forest. Third, a daily identity statement, "I am a person who manages, earns, and receives with ease," repeated until it nudges old habits awake. The mentor insists on action that honors intention. Schedule a phone call to ask for a late fee waiver, set aside a modest giving amount to signal abundance, reframe the budget as an expression of values rather than deprivation. He fumbles, then feels something shift, shame loosening into curiosity, fear dissolving into experiment. The room brightens as if the house itself approves. This isn't wishful thinking, the mentor reminds him. It's a rehearsal for who you will become. He writes the new identity into the notebook, each word a promise and a protocol. Does this land with you? If it does, stay with these practices, they're easier to sustain with a guide. In the next part of the journey, you'll be asked to test these beliefs in the marketplace of your life, where real proof and small miracles begin to arrive. The kitchen light hummed low as he sat hunched over a stack of envelopes, the rain tapping a steady rhythm against the window. He could almost hear the old story rehearsing itself, there's never enough, be careful, don't call attention. Across from him, in the warm pool of lamplight, the inner mentor leaned forward as if from another year of his life, voice steady and kind. "Who do you believe you are when the bills come?" she asked. He swallowed, the answer slipping out before he could soften it, someone who survives. The mentor smiled, not with pity but with challenge. Then act from someone who thrives. They moved through the room like an intimate rehearsal. Tonight, the mentor said, write a letter from your 50-year-old prosperous self. Be specific. Name what's in the account, the sounds in your day, the gratitude you feel. He laughed at first, embarrassed, then found his pen, and the paper began to change the shape of his shoulders. She taught him a practical ritual, a 5 minutes future memories each morning, picturing exact amounts, exact transactions, the tactile sensation of placing a paid bill into a folder labeled the handled. Make it realistic, she advised. Feel the relief, not the fantasy. There were small, tactical shifts too: pay yourself first, automate a tiny savings transfer, thank money as it arrives. Fear rose like an old tide, an impulse to spend, to soothe, to retreat into familiar scarcity. Fear will sound convincing, the mentor said, touching the rim of his mug. Let it speak. Then choose again. He did choose again. He set up a modest automatic transfer, just enough to be meaningful, small enough to be possible, and watched the confirmation ding like a small promise. 2 days later, an old client paid an overdue invoice, not a windfall but proof that behavior breeds result. He felt the change in the way he slept, in the slackening of the jaw when he reviewed the accounts. If this moment landed with you, if you recognize that quiet hour, that inner critic, would you tap like to anchor this choice? Stay with me, next we'll take these private practices into the marketplace of daily decisions, building a 30-day map that tests your new financial identity in the real world. She sits at the kitchen table while dawn pours pale gold across last month's bills. The paper feels heavier today, not because the numbers grew, but because something inside her is different, quieter, more curious. Her inner mentor, a voice she has learned to listen for, leans in like an old friend and asks, "Who are you when you open that envelope?" She answers not with a number but with a story, a child who learned to be careful, a parent who carried worry like a coat. The mentor smiles without judgment. Those stories served you once. They no longer need to be the script. Outside, the city begins its steady hum. Inside, she begins a new ritual. She breathes slowly, places her hand over her heart, and visualizes an account that reflects her worth, not her fear. The image is simple, a steady stream, not a sudden flood, consistent income, sure steps, opportunities meeting readiness. As she names small actions, negotiating a freelance rate, automating savings, taking a tender but firm conversation with a grown child about money, the old tension loosens. Each choice is tiny, ordinary, but felt as alignment, a manifestation practice that looks suspiciously like practical responsibility. A scene shifts to a late afternoon call with a colleague. She hesitates, then states a fee she would have once softened. The pause that follows is not rejection but respect. The colleague asks for clarification and soon nods. Later, she opens her banking app and measures a new metric: how often she chose herself. The numbers are less dramatic than the feeling, but they climb. She recognizes that the law of attraction is not magic without muscle, it requires consistent action that matches a revised identity. There are still moments of fear, a surprise expense, a memory of scarcity, but now she speaks back: I am someone who prepares, I am someone who attracts commitments that honor my value. The voice is steady. If this shift resonates, consider giving this video a like, a small vote for the person you are becoming. What is one belief about money you're willing to change today? If you want a steady path to make that change stick, subscribe and walk this next chapter with me. In the next moment we will map a simple 30-day practice that turns these decisions into habit and into lasting abundance. The kitchen is quiet enough to hear the kettle hiss, sunlight pooling like permission across the table. He sits there with an old notebook, columns of numbers that used to mean anxiety, and now they are steady, like a tide he understands. She leans in, touches his hand, and says softly, "You sound different." He smiles, not because the balance is bigger yet, but because his inner voice no longer tightens at each notification. The voice that once whispered scarcity has been retrained. In the mirror of everyday life, small choices have become proof: a calendar marked for savings, an invoice sent on time, a refusal of a habit that once emptied both time and wallet. These are the trials turned into rituals. Who do you believe you are when no one is watching? The inner mentor asks tonight, not as accusation but as an invitation. He answers by lighting a candle, opening his journal, and writing an identity statement: I am someone who attracts and manages wealth with integrity. It sounds simple, but each repetition rewires the nervous system. The law of attraction does not replace accounting, it aligns intention with disciplined action. Visualization that used to feel like daydreaming becomes a rehearsal for choices: saying no to impulse, yes to investment, calling a client when fear whispers to wait. The environment shifts: files organized, email templates ready, a playlist that steadies focus. These practical changes are the scaffolding of belief. Seen stitched together: a client meeting that turns into a steady contract, an unexpected deposit that feels like validation but also like a test. Fear surfaces, old habits knocking, and this time there is a practiced response: breathe, name the belief, choose the supportive action. Gratitude becomes measurable: a monthly review notes reduced debt, increased income, more nights of restful sleep. You begin to notice the difference not as luck but as identity in motion. What single, small practice could you adopt tonight to claim a different financial self? If you'd like a short guide with 3 morning rituals to begin that shift, subscribe below and I'll send it to you. In the next part we'll return to the world transformed, mapping the daily steps that keep prosperity steady and how to safeguard this new identity against future storms. You walk back into the room that once felt like a confessional for scarcity, the kitchen where bills used to pile like small mountains, the corner office with the chair you always meant to upgrade, the mirror where you rehearsed apologies for asking for more. The late light falls differently now, it seems to agree with the new posture you carry. On the table, a simple ledger sits open, not a list of limits but of choices: a client retained, a savings goal reached, an unexpected payment that arrived the week you practiced asking for value. You touch the paper and remember the voice that guided you through the trials, the inner mentor who spoke not with empty cheer but with steady truth. You were never born small, she said the night you catalogued your fears. You learned to play small because it was safe. It will feel strange to grow. That strangeness becomes tenderness. You hear yourself answer differently now, not with contrived positivity, but with a quiet claim: I am someone who creates opportunities, who invests in what matters, who pays myself first. Those sentences are the small rituals you repeat each morning: a clear intention, a visual of a life that matches your worth, a tiny action that proves the belief. They are the new muscles of your identity. Outside, a neighbor waves; inside, an automated transfer completes to the account that used to be empty. The numbers are not the whole story, but they are evidence, proof that identity works through habit. You remember the trial when old guilt tempted you to sabotage a negotiation, and how pausing, naming the fear, and inviting the mentor's voice changed the outcome. You remember the patience of steady practice, gratitude meetings with yourself, aligning spending to your values, asking for what you deserve with calm clarity. If one image stays with you, let it be the quieter one, you at the center of a gentle, sustained shift. Prosperity is less a sudden windfall and more a rhythm, decisions that honor worth and compound over time. Which belief will you choose to release today, and what small action will you take that proves your new self? If this journey touched you, a like helps others find it, and if you want more practical steps and calm guidance, come back, subscribe, so we can keep walking this path together, one deliberate choice at a time.